So today I've got a bit of a preview for you guys for next week in the stock market. It's going to be a really big day in the stock market, or big week in the stock market. The biggest week I would say in the stock market coming up, which is going to be mega. It's going to be a lot of companies' earnings, a lot of news as well relating to the economy and the outlook. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot of moves in the market. Now, to be honest with you, it's next week is actually going to be a week that I'm going to struggle to make content for you guys. I'm not going to be in the UK. I'm going to be in the US. So I'm not sure how much content I'll be able to get out for you guys. So bear that in mind if I'm missing at any point and some big news comes out. I might be a little bit slow to get there, but we will get there eventually, and I will catch up for you guys. But obviously the first bit of big news that's going to come out is the Fed. The Fed are going to be hiking up, or maybe not, the interest rates. They're set to meet on the 31st on Halloween, and then on the 1st they're going to actually set out the interest rates. At the moment, the prediction is that they're going to keep rates flat, which is quite surprising considering they did it on last time as well. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, that would line up potentially that they then go hike up in December, which we won't have to actually wait that many weeks for. Obviously, what will be quite interesting is obviously if we don't see interest rates hiked up in October, November, and then we come round to December, hopefully we get some favourable inflation data, and maybe we see the pause maybe in December, and maybe that's identified with more regular pauses coming in the interest rate. We'll see what happens. I mean, the big thing is that we don't want to see interest rates still hiked up into 2024. We don't still want to see inflation hiked up to 2024. Hopefully in 2024 we can move past that. Obviously something that's been overhanging the market, the economy for a long time now, and hopefully we can kind of put that in the push that to the side and leave that in 2023. So we'll see what happens. I mean, overall, I wouldn't trust Jerome Powell. I think he could do anything when they do meet. The big thing that I would say is obviously the market's going to be staring at what his tone's going to be. Obviously, is he going to be dovish? Is he going to be hawkish? And I think he's going to do his classic kind of, give himself room for more interest rate hikes if he need it, and he won't kind of give any leeway to the markets and any suggestion that he is going to slow down these hikes, I think. So I see no surprises there, realistically, but we'll see what happens. And that leaves us on to really the big thing that we're all going to be looking at is earnings. It's a very big week of earnings. After we kind of past this week, I would say we start going on we're more than 50% of the way as we get past this week, and we start coming down out of earnings season, the last one of the year. Obviously the next time we'll do earnings will be around that January, February time. So there's a lot of big names reporting this week. Obviously SoFi on the Monday, that's always quite a volatile one. Obviously it's a one that I own. Ideally, I've always said I want to get it a little bit lower than where it is right now, so it can move off earnings big time. And obviously we know payment companies have been a little bit weak at the moment from a share price point of view, and from an earnings point of view, we've seen good earnings get punished, and I've seen SoFi before bring out good earnings and it goes down 20%. So that's actually how I started buying my first position into SoFi. So we'll see what they report and what moves we have there. Obviously on the Monday we've got McDonald's that are going to report in, HSBC, Arista Networks, Pinterest are going to report in. Then we'll get on to Tuesday, Pfizer, Caterpillar, JetBlue, BP, we've got AMD that are going to report in, Paycom, Caesars, and then on the Wednesday, we start getting some really big earnings in the evening or after the close. So PayPal's the big one that's going to report in. I mean, PayPal is just on free fall. I mean, it's now $50. It's just been, I mean, if you look at the last month, it's down 13% in the last month. In the last 6 months, it's down 33%. And you'd like to see a reason why it's down that much, and there's no clear reason why it's actually lost 33% of its company value, which is the scary thing. Down at 14 times earnings, I believe, on a forward earnings now. I dare say it's around about an 8 times forward earnings, which is insane for one of the most consistent revenue growth, profit growth company out there with a great balance sheet, buyback. It's scary to see this stock just on free fall, how it is doing, and I'm just buying shares because I've not seen anything to spook me yet. I mean, obviously there's some weakness in the fintech space. Maybe the concerns come around Worldline and seeing their earnings that came out last week or the week just gone, and maybe the people getting a bit spooked by that. And there's just a lot of negativity around the fintech sector and as a whole at the moment, which is seems to be very overdone at the moment. And at some point, the fintech sector will come back hot. It's just when is it going to happen? And I was going to use PayPal and show you the estimates, but for some reason it's glitching out on Yahoo Finance. It's coming up that the going to grow 1.7%, which isn't right. I think they're actually forecast to grow, I think it's like 8% this quarter. If it's not 8%, it's like 7 point something, quite high. And the EPS, I'm not sure if these numbers are right, but the EPS is expected to jump up. If you look at the actual growth for next year, that does look correct. So I mean, obviously, as long as with PayPal, this sort of valuation, we don't even need to see them beat by crazy amounts. We just need to see them come about where the numbers are and not cut guidance. And obviously, the big thing that a lot of people will be looking at is the new CEO. People are going to be looking at the CEO and seeing what he's going to be suggesting, and that's probably what's going to move the market more than anything. So we'll keep an eye out for that one. But I think at these sort of numbers, they don't even need to come with crazy beats. They just need to be roughly in line, I think, really. We've got Roku, Qualcomm, Airbnb, Etsy. I mean, Etsy is a stock that I own. I've started buying the shares. I'd like to see it go lower. I've said it before, I'd like to see in the $40 range. So we'll see if that happens with Etsy. Then we have Mercado Libre. They're going to report in. Would not mind buying some more Mercado Libre, but I've said before, I need to see it below the $1,000 per share to get some more shares. So we'll see what happens. It's one of the stocks that's been holding up not too bad, actually, to be fair, in this time frame. We've got Palantir. That's obviously one that I know a lot of you guys are liking. Shopify are going to be reporting. Crocs are going to be reporting. Penn National. And then after the close, pretty big earnings after the close. So we've got Apple, we've got Block, DraftKings, which we'll talk about in a second, Starbucks, Coinbase, Cloudflare, and on the close we've got Fubo TV as well on the Friday. So yeah, some big ones there. Apple's going to be interesting to see what's going on there. Obviously, everyone's going to be looking at the new iPhone sales. Block are going to report. Obviously, DraftKings is the big one that I will be looking at. So obviously, they're going to be closing on the Thursday, and then they're going to do the normal thing of the conference call on the Friday. So I probably will do a dedicated video to DraftKings earnings once again. I probably will drop that on Friday after the conference call has happened. So just bear in mind and give me a bit of time to kind of get that video together. But I mean, I was looking at the numbers here. I mean, EPS from a point of view, I think they should beat that. You know, last year it was -1 up to 0.7. I think they should beat -0.7. On the revenue point of view, 57% year-over-year revenue growth. I think realistically we should see them come in the 60% range. So I would expect them to beat by a fair amount there. So I think these numbers are beatable for DraftKings standard. I think the big thing that we'll be looking for is guidance. Obviously, analysts are expecting positive EPS next quarter. So it'll be important to see whereabouts they are on that point of view. I think that's probably the thing that moves the stock more than anything. And that will leave us on the revenue guidance as well. I think the forecast to go to 40% in the next quarter, which is quite low for DraftKings. And I would expect them to hike that up. I would expect, especially with the NFL season going on, I would expect them to realistically hike that up to more to the 50s, even maybe they push the 60% range. So yeah, I would expect them to hike up the sales guidance as well. So that's probably what's going to move the market, is where they come in a profitability point of view from here. I think revenue will be a beat, but I don't think it'll move the stock. And then I think the guide for the next quarter will be key. So if they can give a good guidance there, that will help the stock go up. Don't know if you remember, but last year DraftKings actually brought out 2023 guidance in this quarter. So when we get to this quarter that's coming up, I hope they don't give guidance for 2024. I hope they leave that to the next quarter to give guidance. So yeah, hopefully they give a bit of a break on that one and not guide too early. And then when they get to the actual Q4 in January and they do the guidance, then they can hike these numbers up, because I think they will be able to maybe beat the EPS. I expect, and at the moment analysts are expecting 21% year-over-year revenue growth, which I think is insane. I think realistically we'll be probably double that. If you look at the start of this year, I think the start of this year the analysts were expecting 30% revenue growth this year, and obviously we're already at 57%, and we're only halfway through the year on a reporting basis. Realistically that's going to come in over 60%, so that's doubled up. I would expect to double up next year as well. So hopefully they don't give Q2024 guidance yet. Hopefully they'll leave that for a little bit, because last time they gave that, it killed the stock a little bit. I don't know if you remember, but the stock last year went down. Obviously being a fantastic year, up 141%. But if you look here, so you can actually see when they reported earnings last year, it went down 27%. So last year it was $11 stock, and obviously the stock is up massive since that time frame. So I think what they went wrong is they gave guidance a bit too early, and then what they did is they wanted to hike up again next quarter. So they sandbagged guidance and then hiked it up next quarter, and it kind of killed the stock a little bit. So rather than sandbagging 2024 guidance and then hiking it up in Q1, just do the hike up in 2020 in Q1. And I think the stock will react positive off that. Hopefully they've learned that from last time. We'll see what happens. Obviously, the other thing as well to say is that they're actually going to host a virtual investor day. So they've said this for a while. I said it last year, and I actually thought this was going to be around like March time this year, and it's taken them all the way to. I thought they were never going to do it, but it's taken all the way to October. Well, they'll do it on November 14th of November, to talk about it. Two things I think about this is that, number one, it'll mean that basically, and this is why I'm not sure if I'll do a video on DraftKings earnings, is that any sort of question they get, they probably say, oh, we'll tell you that on the investor day. So for an investor point of view, I don't think we're going to get much information from this earnings, because I think they're going to leave it all for the investor day. They'll just say for nearly every question, yeah, we'll answer that on the investor day. Number two, I think this is probably something that's really important, is that I think what they're going to be showing here is DraftKings' path to profitability is what I'm expecting, and how much profitability they believe they can deliver in the longer term now, because they've got good data on the long-term profitability from a lot of the mature states. So I think the investor day probably will be focused around the long-term profitability. The other thing that I'll be interested in is if they're going to mention international expansion. I don't think they will, because they've still got so much US to do yet. But I wonder if they're going to mention something potentially about maybe an expansion into, let's say, Mexico, for example, or maybe an expansion into another market. That would be my guess, that potentially they could say something like that. At the same time, if they don't, I won't be too surprised, because they have so much of the US market to go for. I don't think they need to do that. So if they do, I will be a little bit surprised, but I'm trying to think what the investor day will be focused on, and I think mostly it'll be focused around the ramp up of profitability and the longer term profitability that they're kind of going to expect. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if they set out some longer term targets of revenue growth and profitability and profit margins. I think that'll be interesting, because now they've got a lot of data on mature states that they're probably able to forecast that a lot better anyway. So yeah, we'll see what happens. It's a big week earnings for me. Obviously, once again, I'll say this is just the most anticipated earnings. I know there's a few other companies that potentially I do own, that will be reporting next week, but they're not on this list, so I've not talked about them. But if there's anything interesting, I'll probably make a video on it anyway. But yeah, as I say, I don't know how active I will be on videos this week, so bear that in mind if I'm not here, but hope you enjoy it. See you in a bit.